And then they're starting to see like, oh, this is me that she's talking to. And then I don't even share all the offer details. I just give like high level overview. So I like paste the information and get those like micro conversions, I think is the official term for them. I put on my copy hat, to get them to like go onto my account or get into my inbox, fill out the contact form, and we keep going from there. So by the time that I get on the call with them, they have all the information they need, but they've gone through this journey. And so like that's how leads started coming in. I just picked a channel, focused on it, and got them to go through my pipeline. And now my job is to fill the tub.
This episode is good and it's worth your time. And here's why. I interviewed Jill, who's a conversion copywriter, a brand and marketing strategist, but she actually has achieved six-figure years. I know because she's a coaching client of mine, and she does that in 4-day work weeks. And she's a new mom with a 15-month at home. And this blew my mind, but she had already achieved these, let's call them milestone goals, the holy grail of having an online course and being an online coach before she took maternity leave. Then she came back from maternity leave with baby brain. If you don't know what that is, listen in on the episode, and worked even less than she was working before and still made more. So, if my voice is new to you, it's because, well, my name's QUÄY.jo. I've coached with Rick for the past about 3 years inside of his program, and I am the new co-host of the Art of Online Business podcast. It's an honor to be able to be here and share with you. Go back to the episode that Rick aired on September 1st, 2023, and you'll listen to his reflections on his sabbatical and some of the decisions that went into bringing me on as the co-host. And I want you to enjoy this episode. I know you'll get a lot from it. We'll chat more soon. Enjoy the episode. I want you to tell me, please, like walk me through how you actually got to six figures a year in 4-day work weeks. And then coming back from your maternity leave, how in the heck did you figure out how to do that less with the kid at home? The listener would like to know. I want to know personally. And I feel like we all hear about people achieving this. So can you just let us behind the scenes?
Yeah, I love to let you behind the scenes. The biggest thing is cutting out the shit that doesn't matter, because we waste a lot of time in the days. And when you realize that, everything changes. So before, when I was like overworked, underpaid, the typical struggling freelancer, just like really busy all the time, a lot of it was just by distractions or making things harder than they needed to be, or fixing my lead magnet for the millionth time, but not with like an actual strategy or like reasons behind it. It's just because I saw something else, right?
Yeah.
So when you focus on what matters and you systemize things, then you can start to free up time. But the way that I actually look at it is following like a few pillars. So getting your sales pipeline in place first, then that frees up time so you can look at your systems and your processes so that you can like work less make more in fewer hours because you have all these systems and processes in place. And then that like opens up this space for you to actually play in, where you can start tweaking with things because you have the time.
Okay.
So that's kind of the process. And then I just took it one step further after maternity leave.
Took it one step further. So you didn't have any setbacks after birthing a human and getting back into the business game?
No, I booked projects before the baby came out and got back to it. I was booked out months in advance. I had to start hiring more like team members to help me with everything, to juggle all the things, because that's a part of it too, right? Like we're not just cutting out things in general from your business, but like from your list and delegating it to others and getting a good team around you. So there's definitely trial and error. Like it wasn't like all super easy. There were weeks where I was deep in training mode or rewriting something because a writer like wasn't a good fit, but this needed to be done for a client. But overall, it was an upward trend of working well and just getting more and more clear on what matters.
Is baby brain, was that even a thing for you?
Yes, it was a huge thing. That was like mentally was like very, very hard. And I don't think enough people like talk about that, but I know that like not all of the listeners here are moms, so I won't get too far into it. But right afterwards, I said that I operated at like 14% of a brain. And I was very thankful for my assistant, who would literally make me weekly checklists. Like that was her job. Like, what do I need to do? Because we have everything organized in ClickUp, but even that was just like kind of overwhelming for me. So she would put it in like a note for me, and I would just go through my list and I would turn my brain on as I could for those specific things, and I didn't have to worry about the rest. And slowly it starts to come back. But the systems that I had in place like made that helpful, because now like I don't waste a ton of time. Like, what am I working on this week? My automations tell me, my ClickUp tells me, my team tells me.
Wow.
An example is that every Monday they check in with their priorities and specifically what they need from me, if they're waiting on anything from me, if I'm the bottleneck for anything. So then I'm training them to tell me what I need to do, so I don't need to sit here. When I turn my computer on, I'm getting like straight into focused work or client calls.
Yeah. Wow. Let's break it down. Let's break it down for the listener who is a man, maybe unmarried, and the woman listener who might not have kids yet. Because I say baby brain, and I understand because I am supported by a wonderful wife with 2 kids at home. And I've seen this thing in action. But for the person who does not know what baby brain means, how would you describe it?
It's like you're not all there. It's like I'm like, when is it all gonna come back? I'd repeat myself. I'd lose my train of thought. I'm just so focused on the baby or exhausted from being up all night that it's just you're not operating at your highest level, which is really frustrating when you're an overachiever, like a lot of us entrepreneurs are. So that's how I would describe it in the entrepreneur world. It's like you're just like a little really tired all the time.
No, I feel you. I feel you. And I think, who cares if not everybody that listens right now is moms? Like, I think moms are amazing. And I know that, like, I'm here because of my mom and because she put up with, well, actually, I was a perfect kid. I'm just kidding. That's the first thing
now
I did.
I want to ask you questions.
Right? No, but I mean, not even week. I don't remember because my eldest is 7 now, but it had to have been the first week. I called up my mom and thanked her profusely, and I didn't even know the half of it, not even the 1,000th of it. But I just knew that, oh, good Lord, this lady did a lot for me. So, for sure, I will talk about being a mom and definitely praise mom. Like, I think moms don't get enough praise. So you came back from maternity leave with baby brain to working even less and making more, and it's because of these systems. Okay, so I know the listener is like, Jill, tell me these systems. What's your favorite one to talk about?
My ideal calendar. That's my absolute first one. It's like I created like rules or like boxes to fit into, which I do not like when somebody else puts me in a box, but I will make my own rules and I will follow those to a T. But the ideal calendar is like I have set up what I want my day to look like, and then I actually put it into a Google Calendar, and I try to follow that. And then that's like, okay, like how am I going to prioritize my work? Like I'm obsessed with my business and growing in it. And well, yes, some priorities shifted. I thought I would want to work more. I realized I wanted to have the same growth, but also more time with my baby. So I had to make that fit into these boxes. And that's one thing. And constantly like revisiting that system. It's like super simple, right? People think systems and they think like automations and SOPs, but this is just like an exercise of a calendar that I use to check myself with when I'm capacity planning and when I'm booking my meeting times and when I'm setting up all the other things. It needs to fit into the calendar. And if it doesn't fit, then it's not important.
Slow up for me. and maybe slow up for me. And maybe the other two, well, I won't call them basic. I'll say I'm a basic listener myself. What the heck is capacity planning?
I mean, like how many clients I can take on reasonably and like how far I can book out. Like I have processes. I know that projects are going to start on X days each month, and I can take on certain ones of specific sizes. And it's easy for me to do that because my offers are refined and really streamlined. And while, yes, everyone's getting custom work, at the end of the day, it's following the same process every time. So it just all kind of like comes together in my ideal calendar.
In the ideal calendar. What else can you tell us about this ideal calendar? I'm being very selfish right now because I'm almost about to share screen with my Google Calendar so you can help meld it into a more ideal calendar.
Well, the thing is, you don't look at what you currently have, because then you'll be limited. Like all of us just like think that, well, how do I change this here? And then we get stuck in the how, but that's less important is figuring out what you want. When you know have the clarity on what you want, then you can start to take simple steps to get there and it's less overwhelming. So I do this with my clients too. They get stuck on the like, well, that's not anything like what it looks like right now. No, of course not. But we need to figure out what it is that you want first. So I put in blocks that are like focused work time, meeting time, based on when I do that type of work best, but also in the schedule that works for my family.
Okay.
So we don't have childcare.
Okay.
And like
that's
gym
key.
times.
You don't have childcare.
No. Sometimes we might have a grandparent that helps, but none actually live in our city. So it's just if they come to visit for a bit.
50 something. How many weeks old is your?
He's 18
kid?
months.
15 months.
18.
No
like
child.
a year and a half.
18. Sorry, 18. Year and a half. No childcare.
Yeah.
This just got even more intriguing. Keep going. Keep going.
I like to push back against people who think that they can't do it. You can do it. You totally can do it. I am, I guess, blessed in the better way of saying, I don't know a better way of saying it, and just that my husband also works remotely. So I'm not by myself all day, but he does work a set schedule all day and needs to be connected. But like at least he can take a lunch break so I can shower, you know? So
Right.
like that's helpful, but I do have to work around nap times or like before he starts his day. And we work together on it. So that does help. It's not the same as like somebody who has a partner who has to actually leave the house. But yeah, with the schedule though, it's like coming up with what you want, not just your business to look like, but your life. So like I'll put in gym times or just, I like a lot of white space there. Some people might like to fill that with like activities or things depending on their style. It's just not just the business, but how does it fit with your life?
But 4 days? Because I feel like just my own life alone outside the business is not going to fit in 4 days. So, so that's the very selfish question for me, which is,
Okay.
All right, first you said, don't start from your current calendar. Start from the calendar that you want.
Mm-hmm.
And then put in basically what I heard was the personal stuff that's non-business that like to establish the balance. But what's the next step?
I mean, it kind of depends on what you want, right? Like, because you're talking about 4 days. Can you hear the screaming in the background?
But that wasn't your kid. That was like a crow,
was it?
right?
That was mine.
What?
Yeah.
Do you need to pause?
No, it's okay. He's fine. He's happy. That was a happy noise.
He's fine. He's happy. That is so. I mean, I thought it was a crow.
Him and his dad were having lunch, and it sounds like they might have had to have a bath to clean up after, and he's happy in there. Anyways.
Oh my god, so, I love kids. Okay, keep going.
The process is that you think of the life that you want. Like, how much do you want to be working? Is that 4 days a week? Is that 20 hours a week? Is that 15 hours? Like, what is it that you want? And what do you want from your life too? Like, do you want to have meetings every day, all day? Or do you want to like try to get them all into certain days so you can have more freedom? Do you go on trips a lot? Are you gonna have to be rescheduling things? So I ask my clients to start here because this is how we actually shape our offers from it. Because if you are offering like you coaching, and from what I know, you have meetings every other week. But what if you want to go on vacation on one of your meeting weeks?
Good question.
Exactly. You have to figure that out. But if you changed your ideal calendar to be a certain way, like maybe that works for you and then that's good. But maybe you're like, I don't know what I want from here. So if you make your ideal calendar fit that life you want first, then you can develop an offer that fits into the time that you have.
Okay. All right. I don't think the listener knows that we coach together. So if you don't know, like Jill is a client of mine. I do have this service where I coach and consult basically how to fix funnels. Like if you need help with your marketing to bring in more leads or convert the leads into sales or just team or systems and that kind of dynamic. Link in the show notes below. All right, little selfish plug. But
QUÄY.jo's great.
Thank you. Okay, so you start to fill that in, and then you had said something that I want to go back to. If you want to take a vacation, you build that into your calendar?
So like I know that I like to have December is very light and also June because it's my birthday month. So we might want to do vacations around then. So I will build that flexibility into my ideal calendar, in my actual Google Calendar, as like it's called ideal calendar, and I can toggle it on and off so I can check myself. But
Okay.
by putting in these things like when I do meetings best or when works for my family, like right now it's lunchtime, so like it's not going to be disruptive for my husband's work that I'm doing this because he's having lunch with the kid. So I put those things in, and then I know when my focused work is, and I know how much I can get done in like a 3-hour focused work block on client work versus the business stuff versus like managing the team. And then that helps me develop offers and do capacity planning that fits within those. So like I can sell day reservations, or I can sell retainer clients, or like massive projects, and I know exactly how many I can take because I'm really clear on my schedule and how all of it fits together.
Wow. So like as a copywriter who has a copywriting arm to your business, right? Like people come to you to get their conversion copy, be it sales pages, ads, what have you, written or email sequences. And then as a brand and marketing strategist, I want to come back to this calendar, but I also got to ask, you took your offers and you developed those around the type of time that you wanted them, or at least delivering on them to fit into?
Yeah, like the work that I'm doing.
Do you
So
know how rare that is?
I mean,
Like,
I don't know if it's rare, but it's a necessity for me. Like this
I
is
just
like survival.
that's I don't know many people who did that. Like most people I know develop their offers more like say like an offer stack, if you will, or and then once they became successful, figured out their how to make it all like fit together, or maybe pared things back, or figured out like they needed to not work 80 hours a week.
Yep.
Been there myself.
Yep.
Wow.
I've been there too. You know, you just start doing stuff. But then when I got really clear on these things and it started with 4 days,
Mhm.
I was like, how much work can I actually do in 4 days? Well, then how much do I need to make in a week in order to hit my sales goals? Well, then how can I develop an offer that's going to make me X amount per week that will like that I can layer on other clients with? And it just kind of grows exponentially from there. And then adding in the team is this whole other aspect because it
Mm.
frees up even more of my time or changes how I'm spending my time. So I can layer in more revenue without adding on more like copywriting time specifically to
Mhm.
my list. Copy chiefing time, but that's a little bit like it doesn't take me as long. So it's just like in steps, I guess, which is why you start with your ideal and you work backwards rather than staring at what you have right now and going, I'm working 80 hours and I don't know how to fix this.
Start with your ideal and work backward instead of staring at what you have and just getting stuck because you don't know how to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Tell me more.
About what? So yeah, this is how I've refined my offers and the processes within them. So this is why even though it's a calendar, I still consider it a system because the calendar influences everything. And every time I change my ideal calendar, like things in the business have to change. Whether that is like office hours, what's included in certain things, how much engagement with me, if I need to hire someone new, all of that is influenced by when and how I want to work.
Okay, next question. Which is, I mean, it's just what you're saying. What you're saying is so, it just makes so much sense. And yet it's so succinct. And I'm like, but there's at least 46 details in my own life that aren't even on my calendar that I'm like, how do I iron those out?
You need to take as much as possible out of your brain and document it because
Okay.
this is where like maybe this is where the baby brain comes back in. If I don't write it down, it might not happen. If it doesn't fit in my calendar, it's definitely not happening. So anyone can take that because the more that you can free up space in your mind from all of the busy and all of the stuff that you don't need to be doing, like the better you'll be for it, the less you'll work. Think of how much time you're just like switching tasks and thinking about what you're going to do next or like scrolling or,
Oh, geez.
you know, like I can't scroll anymore. I don't have time to scroll.
I'm guilty. Okay, so having a baby, figuring this all out, but you didn't figure this out after you came back from maternity leave. You already had it together before. Maybe having baby brain forced you to get even better, which is
Mhm.
how you somehow came back working less and making even more. But Was it easy to figure this out on your own? I mean, it all sounds so sweet, so succinct, so put together, but the ideal calendar, like maybe back up. What were some lessons you learned as you were developing this ideal calendar for yourself?
That
Like,
I overcomplicated everything. I
okay.
made it so hard, like just unnecessarily, just because like you stress about it and you want it to be perfect. And the recovering perfectionist, you just have to start doing stuff, or like you get stuck on the how instead of what do I want, and just being busy with things, thinking that you need to. Yes, I really believe in like over delivering with clients, but
Mhm.
you also don't have to stress yourself out about it, right? And some people just, the people pleasing, scope creep, like all of this stuff adds in. So I made all of those mistakes, and it like wasn't super easy, but I've just been doing it for a while, and it's been a growth process. Like before getting to the 4-day weeks, and then like after, the plan wasn't to come back with 15 hours until like my son was born. Then I was like, well, I can't go back like that much. Like I thought that we would get childcare and I'd be like right back into business lady mode, but it shifted. So I just had to work with what I have and refine processes more and get more help and get more clarity and just keep shifting and evolving. Like it's not linear.
Wow. Okay. We're gonna kind of pivot. I got another
Okay.
question for you.
Okay.
This is more to the brand and marketing strategist side of you. But
Mhm.
I noticed in the document that we're working from, I noticed you wrote something, and it's quite intriguing.
Uh-oh. What did I write? I can't remember. It's not on my calendar.
You can't see. You have no idea. She had no idea what I'm about to ask her. No, it's just that you said that you hadn't cold pitched for work since 2019. And obviously, right now, at the recording of this episode, it's 2023. And that you're landing projects that are 8 to 15K. So, how? How?
Well,
Everything's inbound.
yeah,
How?
everything,
Yeah.
everything. Well, first, I have a very strong aversion to pitching. It's just the worst. It's the absolute worst. I literally like would cry about it. I cried to my husband about it so
Okay.
many times because I just felt like I'm sending out all these pitches. I'm not that great at it. Like I'm getting some jobs, but they're really low paying, like the $25, maybe $500, like just
Total?
not good. Yeah, yeah. Like this was
Oh,
like early days of like freelancing, getting into copy, like terrible stuff. And
wow. Okay.
I was still like serving on the side. I was still like in school. So like it's fine, but it just didn't feel great.
Oh, where'd you
So,
go? You
okay,
said, sorry, let's pause. You said serving on the side, or did you say surfing?
serving. I was like
Okay.
working in restaurants and bars and stuff like while I
Ah,
was still in
okay.
school. Because another thing is I've never had a real job. I just did this straight out of university.
I
Uh,
beg to differ. Hold on. I'm gonna say working at a restaurant is probably the realest job
I never
ever.
had a corporate job, desk job. I'm not very employable in that way. I'm great at talking to people and selling them things.
Well, I mean, none of us are employable. I mean, with the
Yeah.
kind of businesses we operate, like,
Yeah.
right.
This is
Okay.
this is my crown. So it was just the cold pitching wasn't for me. So I
Mhm.
started to like study more of marketing. That was what my continuing studies were in, um, and brand strategy and just like how to actually connect with people. Part of my undergrad was philosophy, and I did a little bit of psychology too, and a lot of English. So like storytelling and getting to know people and like what makes them tick, and all of that kind of comes together in this cool
Hmm.
way of like I feel like I'm really good at connecting with people online.
Okay.
So I started sharing more of the personal side of being a freelancer on the internet. And then that is how I grew like the messaging and the marketing to start attracting leads. So once I went full time in my business, like I didn't cold pitch for work since then. So I've gotten leads from networking events, just from like actually connecting with people, not like pitching myself to them, and
Mm,
from showing up on the internet consistently and having a solid pipeline in place. Like my website does the converting. I don't get on a ton of sales calls. Like I don't want to talk to them if they don't have the budget. I don't want to talk to them if they're not a good fit. And
right.
now my sales calls are more like, do we like each other and when can we start, rather than like the other stuff, because like my pipeline does that for me instead. Um, Also
Nice.
referrals, because I'm really into like the client experience and making sure that they feel good and guided and supported and like we become friends. So then I have clients for like years. I've had some for like 18 months, 3 years. Like they've gone through this journey with me. And then that way I don't have to send any gold pitches anymore. I can just send out an email to my list, or like, you know, reach out to a client, and it's not like a pitch. It's like a, hey, how's it going? And they're like, oh, I was just thinking of you.
Okay. All right. Which is so intriguing. Let's take a step back.
Okay.
I'm gonna set up this question to give you context. One thing I want for the listener to have is what I wish I had 3 years ago. Well, at least from this date. So we're 2023. So what I wish I had right now in 2020, when my life was completely and utterly falling apart, when I was stuck outside of China, everything I've been working for the previous 12 years in my previous business, teaching people in China how to learn Chinese. This would obviously be foreigners in China how to learn Chinese, and speaking on stages and all that jazz was disrupted and destroyed and decimated and all the other bad D words by the pandemic. And I needed motivation, like, to help me get back up on my feet, to take the strategic steps that I knew because I was listening to podcasts and YouTubing how to do the things. But before I could take those steps and walk, I just had to get back up on my feet. And I needed this, which is what I'm about to ask you. Pickup spot. I'm sure you got a couple, but if you're comfortable with sharing, a hard spot, a dark spot where you thought at whatever point in your business that you might not make it or just want to continue another 2 weeks. I mean, a kind of on the brink spot, like, and I want to know what got you through it. But first, can you describe that spot? What you were feeling, what you were thinking, and what was going on circumstantially, if that's a word, to the listener and me?
There's been a few times throughout my business. Often it includes like losing all your clients. Like that happened to me when I was still freelancing part-time, and they just disappeared one day, right? Because they weren't as consistent. Then, of course, with the pandemic, like anyone else, like I worked with a lot of travel industry people and wedding industry people. And so I lost, I think, all, if not almost all of my clients when that hit. And that was scary. But every time that's happened, like the next few months, like it creates space for something that's double, like way better. So I just know to trust the process every time, and that everything's temporary, and that it's way scarier to get a job and have to work for somebody else than to navigate whatever this is. Like when we have a business, we have like, yeah, it's terrifying. So when we have a business, we have like this tap that we can turn on and off, and like that control over it. And maybe that's like a tough moment right then, but like we already have the skills and the foundations in place to like go and change and realign and make it fit into like our new ideal calendar. And like maybe like the tough stuff like helps me realize like, okay, maybe that wasn't for me. Like maybe those clients weren't for me. Maybe I need something bigger. Maybe I need to raise my rates. Maybe I need to like learn something new.
Okay.
It always comes back better.
Okay. So you said it's scary to have to look at getting a job again. That happened to you?
Oh, I've never had to get a job. I mean, like I've landed.
Were you thinking about it at one point?
So when I was freelancing part-time and serving, I like thought that I needed to. So I would like apply for jobs, but I would like not go on the first day or turn down the offer at the last minute, or I lasted 2 weeks at one point, but it's just like not for me. It's just not for me.
Okay, so hold on. There's more there.
And so I'd just go get more freelance gigs instead.
But you applied for jobs. What kept you from going in on the first day for the job that you got?
I think it was more like that it stopped me from doing something that wasn't for me. Like you're supposed to go to university and get the fancy job, and like my friends were doing that, right? Like I went to a nice university. They all started making money right away, and I started freelancing and serving. And like I was good at serving, but it still wasn't the same. Like I didn't have the corporate email and like that. So then I would sometimes get caught in like, oh, maybe I need to do this. Like maybe this isn't going to work for me, especially because I struggled for so many years to just figure it all out. But then I started like right after I graduated, like 2014, but I didn't go full time until like 2018, 19.
Okay.
Because that's when I was serving and went back to school and like figuring out all of the things. So that's when I was like applied for the odd job just to like
Gotcha.
see if that's what I was supposed to do. And then I'd realize like, no, this isn't for me. I have to keep going.
Okay. So you applied for the odd job, but then you also got the odd job, which to me is, I've been there. Like, I got this quota. I will apply to, well, for me, it's super low, but like 5 or 6 jobs. But that's mentally draining to fill out that many applications and then push yourself past all the mental baggage from not getting the calls back from the other jobs, and then looking and stitching together your resume because you've been doing the entrepreneurial thing, which doesn't quite fit with what a job resume should be. So you went through that, got hired, and then something was just holding you back from actually taking the job or even just getting there.
Right.
And you went back to your business, but the business that was
I
struggling.
still had freelance like jobs on the side the whole time. That was always consistent. There was never a time where like I guess aside from like the few times that I've lost all of them, but that was only for maybe a month long period max. And somebody else comes.
That's scary. Yeah. Okay.
Like,
all right.
This is where like it's like when something bad happens, something good happens right away. So I'd be like crying one day and then have a bunch of leads the next day because it like, I don't know if it's like woo woo, but like there's space for better stuff to come.
Okay.
And thankfully I did not stick with any of those jobs or accept them or apply for more because this I think is way better.
Yeah, I agree with you. So I think the final question I'll ask for this segment, and then we'll wrap up, is how did leads start coming in? Because this was earlier on in your social media.
Yeah.
You had lost a number of clients. How did leads start just coming in?
So at the beginning of it, I posted on Instagram every single day for a year. I gave myself that challenge.
Oh, dang. Okay.
I stuck with it, and it was like a feed post, and it was back when it was pictures, and it was great. You could put the odd time lapse on, but it was like a square, not like a reel.
Right.
So
and the algorithm was kinder then too. Well, it was hard, but
it was still like I wish I started like before 2014. That's when it,
Oh, we all. I wish I had a YouTube channel back in 2008.
Same. I would have been like 14, like 16.
You're a little bit younger than me.
Anyways, so yeah, I did that at first. I had a blog. I didn't do as much with it, but it was mostly just showing up on Instagram and directing them to my website. And then starting to think of how, like, what I wanted to say on my website to get them to fill out the contact form. And like, then what happens after the contact form and just guiding that process. So I find that a lot of the time people are like, here's my offer on Instagram. Mm-hmm. And people scroll past because they don't want to see that. But if you're like telling a story and getting to know them, and then you're like, go look over here for more information, then they go over there and then they keep reading the story because they're learning more about you on the website. And then they're starting to see like, oh, this is me that she's talking to. And then I don't even share all the offer details. I just give like high level overview. So I like paste the information and get those like micro conversions, I think is the official term for them. I put on my copy hat to get them to like go onto my account or get into my inbox, fill out the contact form, and we keep going from there. So by the time that I get on the call with them, they have all the information they need, but they've gone through this journey. And so like that's how leads started coming in. I just picked a channel, focused on it, and got them to go through my pipeline. And now my job is to fill the tub.
Okay. Well, great. First, thank you for sharing a bit of that. And since we're at the end of the episode, like, people must be able to know how to go and get this ideal calendar from you.
So I have the 6-figure schedule, which is just a snapshot of my calendar itself. Along with, so like they can see like what my Google Calendar looks like at the time of uploading, which I think is the most relevant one. We update it periodically because my ideal changes and I want to be like transparent with them. So that's the 6-figure schedule. It also includes things like my tasks from my ClickUp and my job description versus like what's on my team's list, and an overview of like the building, growing, and scaling process as I see it and how it fits within these pillars. So it kind of gives them to like not just a calendar, but like, and here's some steps to go about that.
Cool. Where's the URL? We're going to link it up in the show notes, but can you tell us what that URL is, please?
It's jillwise.com/6-figure-schedule.
Cool. All right. It's Jill Wise, not jillwise.com, but your website is ITS and then jillwise.com. Of course, we're going to link that up in the show notes. And thank you for, selfishly, I want to say thank you for walking me through that. You've given me some hope. I'm looking off to the side for those of you listening who are also watching or looking, or just like on YouTube. I'm looking at my calendar and I'm thinking, dang it, it's about time I fix this bad boy. And so thanks for providing me with that motivation. And then send it to you so you can be like, it ain't fixed yet. You got work to do.
I love to see other people's calendars and like what they want. It's cool.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for being on this episode, Jill. And I look forward to the next time when we can chat during one of our strategy calls.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Take care. Bye.